Okay, so it's time for a quick demo of the system. So right here on my right side, I have my circuit. As you guys can see, I have my Raspberry Pi over there connected to my Arduino. Also, my Raspberry Pi is connected to a camera which is located over there. Let me get another angle. There we go. This is a USB camera, but the system also works with the Pi camera. We also have here a relay, which this relay has a lamp connected to it, and this relay is connected to the Arduino. We also have another relay which controls the pump, and the pump is over here inside this bucket. And we also have the Arduino connected to a humidity sensor. And that's pretty much every single component inside the circuit right now. Now, as soon as we boot the system, we should see a page like this. This is a login page, and it should ask for a magic word, which is pretty much a password. Where you can find this password? Well, you can just navigate here. So inside of the source code, so the backend folder is where all the source code of this project is located. We have a .m file, which stands for environmental variables. And it's pretty much a bunch of variables that set up the system. And here we have a variable called password. And right now it's set to test. Obviously use whatever value for a password that you want. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just setting it to test. And so here we're gonna type test and press enter. There you go. So the first thing we see is the live feed of my camera. So within this live feed, we have the trail over there, we have the bucket and pretty much everything. If I move closer and I don't know, push my hand to it, we should see it. Or I don't know, as I move my feet here, you guys can see I'm moving my feet. And we have pretty much 2 frames per second being transmitted, which is pretty good. That is something that can be changed on the source code as well, as pretty much anything. But so far it's set to 2 frames per second for performance. So pretty much anyone can have access to the system, and latency is good. The second thing we have here is the readings from the humidity sensor. So here we have a little tooltip that explains that whenever the sensor is extremely wet, that it should be around 250. And whenever it's completely dry, it should be around 650. Right now, the sensor is out of the water. So as you guys can see, it's over there. And it is a little bit wet. There's a lot of there's some water residue in it, and that's why it's reading 550 right now. However, whenever the sensor is like submerged in water, this value should drop to like 400, 350, something like that. Then we have this part of the system, which I'm going to cover in a second, but then we have those 2 switches here, which are pretty interesting. The first one is the light switch. So, I mean, the name is pretty self-explanatory. If I click the switch, I should see the light going off, and if I click it again, the light will go on. And that's pretty much what it is. The second one is a water pump switch, which is more interesting. So if we go back really quickly to the environmental variables file, we're gonna see we have a variable called humidity sensor, pump runtime limit seconds. So this is the runtime that pump should run in seconds. So as soon as I turn that switch, the pump should run for 2 seconds. And you may ask yourself, why do we have this limitation, right? So the limitation exists for security reasons. As soon as we turn the pump, a lot of water will come out of our tube, right? So we don't want to overflow the plant or anything like that. So having that variable is pretty much a security measurement. So let's turn on our pump and see that in action. So let me put my laptop down here. There we go. And we're gonna I'm gonna click on here, and we should see some water coming out for 2 seconds, and it's off. There we go. So that's pretty much what's happening here right now. Now there's an interesting feature over here, which basically says run pump when humidity greater than number, right? So whenever the humidity is greater than this specific number, you should run the pump. So we know that the number gets greater and greater when the trail is dry, right? So if the sensor is dry, this number is going to be greater and greater. So this is basically a rule that, hey, If this number here is greater than this guy here, just run the pump because we don't have enough water. So let's just put something here. I'm gonna put 520 as our value, and I'm gonna click save. And we should see the pump running non-stop right now because the sensor is still outside. So let's just give it a try first. So I'm gonna click save. And right away, the pump turns on automatically and we can see water coming non-stop. And well, this is not gonna change because right now our humidity is 597, 591, 600. Well, our humidity is not changing. The sensor is not getting more wet, right? More humid. So it's going to be running non-stop. So let's do another test. Let me actually change this back to 600, and this should turn off the pump right away. There you go. It's off. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this little guy, the sensor over here. I'm going to move our tube here to this little tray here, obviously where the sensor is located. Do some adjustments, but now everything is looking good. We have our sensor over there, we have our tube, everything is looking ready. Let's go back to the system, and now we're going to change the property to 520. That means this value needs to go under this value now. As soon as I click save, the pump will automatically turn on and start pumping water to our system. So let's do that. So let's click save here. And okay. And let's watch. And it's getting more and more water to the system, and it automatically turns off. Great. And the reason why is now our humidity is 430, 440, which is under 520. And that's it. That's pretty much how it works. This property is really nice because now if we, if our plant is dry, like it's close to a specific like dry value, we can literally just set up this property to auto irrigate our plants. So we don't need to turn on the pump like manually.